Today's topic, we're going to be talking about handicapping. 10 racehorse red flags. How to spot a losing horse. Want to get those tosses out of the way. I like to do the tosses usually before I actually pick winners. Want to get rid of the dead wood. So let's get started with that. First, coffee. Dunkin' Donuts today. Nice. Let's cut to the chase. 10 racehorse red flags. How to spot a losing horse. Number 1, the horse is too slow with no redeeming qualities. You can spot them by the speed figures. Just doesn't match up with the other horses in the race. No real redeeming qualities. Nothing stands out about its pace, its running style. Just not a contender. So yeah, horse is too slow, no redeeming qualities, nothing like flashy early speed that might, sneak it through. Nothing. So no redeeming qualities, the horse is too slow. And you could tell that by looking at the speed figures. Just doesn't fit. Others just blow it away. Number 2, red flags. 10 red flags. Horse racing. How to spot a losing horse. Poor trainer and jockey tendencies. Okay? Look at that. Does this jockey and trainer, or both especially, have horrible winning percentages? I mean, really low. Sometimes you're talking less than 5%. And together they're terrible as a team. Unless that horse has just blows the others away for some reason, which usually isn't going to happen. If both the trainer and the jockey stink, and they stink together, that's a red flag. They don't fit the race. They do terrible under these circumstances of today's races. Red flag. Poor trainer and jockey tendencies. They're just losing trainer and a losing jockey. So beware. Number 3. Red flag. Racehorse. Declining workout pattern. Workouts. If you see a declining workout pattern or no workouts for a horse, sometimes you'll see that in the really cheap claiming races, which are usually races to avoid anyway. But if you see a declining workout pattern, a horse that's usually working lights out or tends to work very fast and there's been no trainer change, and suddenly you see a couple of really slow workouts in a row, or the pattern is getting worse, horse that usually worked out regularly is now hardly working out at all, declining workout pattern or no workouts, it's a red flag. Keep an eye on those workouts. How to spot a losing horse. Some might get worried about slow workouts. About slow workouts, some trainers are notorious for working their horses slowly. So if you see a bunch of slow workouts or some fast ones and fast and slow, if that's the trainer's tendency and that's how the horse usually works, I wouldn't get hung up about that. So I'm just talking about declining workouts or no workouts at all. Again, in some really cheap races, the horses never work out at some of these tracks. So maybe those are spotty races to begin with. Number 4, racehorse red flags. How to spot a losing horse. A drastic change in form. This could be either usually a drastic negative change, or a drastic positive change too. I'll get to the positive one second. If you see a horse all of a sudden throw a real clunker and it didn't encounter trouble on the track or stumble at the start or something like that, or maybe the last 2 races are drastic, big change of form. You look at the horse's races, you look at his speed figures, all of a sudden you see a big drop in performance. Take a look and see if the horse has encountered any drops like that before and how it did the next race or two back. But, you know, if something is really off with a horse, even if it comes back, it's usually not going to come all the way back at once. So if you see a big change in form the last race and there was really no, it wasn't due to a troubled trip or something, watch out. What about a big positive change? Jumps way forward, runs a tremendous race. Out of character. That's another red flag. That's a red flag too, in the same drastic change in form. What are the odds this horse is going to repeat that effort? Unlike, you know, say there wasn't, especially if there was no trainer change. If there's a trainer change, maybe you want to be more forgiving with that. And there was a change in running style. Check what happened, how that race developed. If there was a big change in form too, what happened? Horse jumps way forward. It's usually not going to duplicate that big effort again. It'll probably go back somewhere where a style where it usually runs in the, you know, the majority of the time. Maybe in that last race it ran a really quick race because it has a little bit of early speed and was a paceless race, or had no other speed at all. It ran out and got brave. Look at the fractions. Is that horse and ran away, right? Look at the fractions. Is that horse, if he runs those fractions today, it's going to be able to get away from this group? Probably not. But yeah, beware of the drastic change in form, especially in negative form. Number 5, a huge jump or a huge drop in class. Especially beware this on turf where class is king. So they say. Probably heard that before. Huge jump in class. Horse might be getting in over its head. Does it fit? Look at how the trainer, his win percentage when he's moving horses up, or she's moving horses up. So beware of how the trainer performs under these circumstances. A huge jump or huge drop. Huge jump, probably asking a lot of the horse. Unless, keep an eye if it tends to be a big front runner and probably has a big pace edge today. Yeah, then you want to be more forgiving because the horse knows nothing about class. He might just run off and just has to run his fractions, provided his speed fits as well, the speed figures. But the a huge drop in class, wow, that's a red flag. That especially if it's suspicious. I was looking at, maybe they drop it into a low claiming level or lower claiming level, running in one type of race and suddenly it's available for a claim. Something is probably not sound with the horse. I saw a horse yesterday that I liked over at Parks, and I was actually going to use it. But one thing that troubled me a little bit, the horse was claimed, right? And it's coming off a win in a race that fit yesterday. And then I'm seeing that the horse is dropping in class. So the horse is claimed and now they're going to put it up for cheaper in its first race with the new team, right? I'm like, what's the deal with that? Are they trying to steal the claim? Or it just looked a little suspicious. I liked the horse, but that bugged me. And it turned out that the horse wound up getting scratched. So I was glad I didn't have to deal with that decision. Because I was like, something I wasn't really, crazy about that one. So beware of the huge jump in class or the huge drop in class. Horse might not fit. Especially if it's a fast horse. If it's dropping in class in a claiming race after a win or a good performance, red flag. Probably just trying to give the horse away. Number 6. Red flags, 10 red flags, racehorse red flags. How to spot a losing horse. Number 6, a massive layoff. Some trainers are able to get a horse back after it's been off and perform well after it's been off the track for a while. Okay? But look for the trainers, how they do off a layoff, the number of days, how it does after, especially if it's off for more than a few months, going on a year sometimes, or 6-month layoff. Beware the massive layoff most of the time. And if the horse has been laid off a lot and it has very few workouts or spotty workouts leading up to the race, when it's comeback race, I mean, that goes right with the layoffs. That's kind of a problem, especially if you look back and see that before the layoff, this horse had worked out on a regular basis. And now, since the layoff, it's really hardly working out at all. Massive layoff. Beware of that. Red flag. Then, remember, check how the trainer usually does with this type of layoff. How often they win when the horse has been off that length of time. But it's usually a red flag. Number 7, the pace style does not fit the race. See how the horse usually runs. Is it a front runner? Is it a stalker? Is it a closer? Check how the running styles of the other horses in the race. If it's an early pace horse and there are other horses that are faster early, that's probably going to break the horse's spirit. It's not going to grab the lead today. Others are just faster. So the pace, yeah, you might try and run with them. Usually try and run with them and die and be off the board completely. Gives up, right? Beware if the pace doesn't fit. Just same thing like stalking. Say there's a closer or whatever. There's only a couple of, an early speed, and looks like it's just not going to be able. It doesn't set up for this stalker today, folks. So be closer today. So make sure that the pace style fits the race. If the pace style does not fit today, it's a red flag. Say you got you check the distance too. How the horse, if it's a closing horse and now it's turning back in distance, turning back in distance, that closing style now becomes a distinct disadvantage. So you want to be aware of that. You might have fast speed figures in routes, but in a sprint, check how it does in sprints if it has done it before. Hasn't tried it before, you don't know what this one's going to do, but probably not going to be able to get there. So check the pace. Check that the pace fits the race. If it doesn't, watch the distance too. Red flag. Not likely to win today. Surface switchers, number 8. Beware of the surface switcher, especially dirt horses going on turf. Turf horses going to dirt. That tends to be even more of a problem. These turf horses, they tend to have a bigger hoof. They're, better for the grass. On dirt, that might put them at a disadvantage. You don't see many good turf horses or turf horses going and becoming successful dirt runners. So beware of that. What about the synthetic to turf or turf to synthetic? That type of change, not really that much of a red flag because synthetic surfaces tend to play somewhat like turf. So those horses can be interchangeable. Dirt to turf, turf to dirt. Check if they've done it before. If they've done it before successfully, or they have big numbers in a change, okay, that's not a red flag, but check it out. Check how they usually do, and check how the trainer does making a surface switch like that. A surface change, it's a red flag. It's a sign that the horse traditionally doesn't fit the race. Number 9, red flags. Track and distance, they don't match up, okay? The horse is usually poor at a given. If you see a horse is poor at a certain track and he's running at that track today, or poor at the distance he's running at today, those are major red flags. You're asking the horse to do something he doesn't do well. So be on the lookout for that. Distance and the track, it's a poor match. And if he's never run at that track before, keep an eye on that. You don't know how he's going to do over there. How does that trainer usually do when they change tracks or at that track? But the distance, you want to make sure the distance and his record at the track and at that distance is competitive for the race. Last but not least, number 10. The horse is dead on the board, red flag. Especially if this is one of the favorites or one of the ones, maybe it's like 3-1 or something like that. You see these horse opens high and stays 7-1 or some weird number, and then sometimes he'll fight his way back down to, around his morning line, because the late chalk eaters will chime in with their bets. But if you see the horse is dead on the board, watch the payouts. You want to do your handicapping and preparation work early so you can pay attention to stuff like this. You don't want to be scrambling looking at PPs up until the last minute. You want to have, or when the board opens, you want to be able to glance at it and see what is going on. Look at the payouts. Look at what the daily doubles are paying out, what the horse is paying out in exactas. If they're inflated, really inflated prices, suspicious prices, then you see some other ones are, taking money. You may want to heed some caution on whether to use this horse, even if you like it. If something is suspicious about the board, just keep an eye on that. I'm not saying that's the most important factor, but it is a factor to be aware of. Horse is dead on the board. Payouts are too high. Doesn't fit the horse. Something's up. How to spot a losing horse. 10 racehorse red flags. That's what we're here for, folks. Help improve your game, your winning handicapping, win money consistently at the track. Pay attention to these factors when you're doing your legwork, preparing to win money at the track. So like this video, smash the like button if you like the video. Share it with your horse racing friends. Much appreciated. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel and hit that red rectangle for subscribe and the bell so you get notifications of all new shows. And some of these are going to be live shows, live handicapping shows, so you want to get notification of those so you know when the show is going to go live.